Hi everyone, my name is Laskewitz, and in this video I'm gonna show you how you can return values from a WinAutomation script. In the last video I showed you how you can use the new action to trigger a WinAutomation script from UI flows. But there was not a possibility to select an output for that. You only can trigger it and nothing comes back actually, only the information that it has run successfully or not. But sometimes you want to get something from the application that you have been triggering, for instance. So when you create a WinAutomation script, you of course have an application you want to automate, whether it's web, whether it's another application that you have on your machine. But sometimes you want something out of that application or out of that website to make sure that you really have what you need actually. So for that, I created a Power Automate flow which will trigger on when an HTTP request has been received. So I'm really excited to show you this, and that's why we are now gonna move to my PC and I'm gonna show you how it's been done. Okay, so here we are on my desktop, and you can see that I have the input forms process open in WinAutomation. This is the same process I used before. We added these two actions at the beginning of the WinAutomation process to make sure that we can get the inputs from the Power Automate UI flow. And these are still in here. I changed the ending of the process a little bit because we used to have a message box below here. I deleted that one and I changed the get details of element on web page because I changed the output variable to result instead of message box description. And I'm going to tell you why, because we're going to use the result to of course use it as an output, and we're not going to use it anymore as a message box description. So that's why I think result is a better suitable name. So when we are returning stuff to Power Automate, it's not possible to do that with the native actions right now. But when I was working with this, I thought, well, there's so many Power Automate pieces that you can just click together. There's automated workflows, you have BPF, business process flows, you have UI flows, you have WinAutomation, you have all kinds of stuff. And for this process and to use an output back into Power Automate, I thought, well, why not use one of the actions that we have here, or multiple of those actions if we need that. So if you look at the left side, there's tons of folders here, but there was one specific one that caught my eye, and that's the CMD session. There are multiple actions in here, so let's just add the open CMD session, and I'm gonna choose a working folder in here. There's multiple things you can do here. You can also insert a variable, or you can type it if you want, but I'm just lazy, I'm gonna select a folder. So let's select the documents folder that I have and click OK. So you can see that it's D and my username / documents. And it will store the CMD session into CMD session as a variable. So let's select OK. And now the only thing that we have is that it will open a CMD session. And that's not all that we want. We want to write to the CMD session. We want to make sure that we open up PowerShell here. So let's just put PowerShell in here. And then I'm gonna write to CMD session. That's another action I'm gonna add. And in here, I want to trigger, or at least open up or run a PowerShell script. And that's a PowerShell script I already have in my folder here, and it's called powerautomate.ps1. And I'm going to put some quotes here, and I'm going to tell you a little bit later why I'm going to do that. So let's select OK. And to finish this all off, we want to close the CMD session, of course, at the end. to make sure that the machine is in the correct state when we end the process. So those are the steps that we need. We're going to change this a little bit around, but let's open the PowerShell script that we're going to trigger. You can see here that we have the variable called params, and it's an object in here. The object contains result and name, and it uses the arguments of args, the args variable in here, and it will get the first variable, or sorry, the first argument and the second argument, because when you use a 0 here, it will count from 0 up. So 0 is the first one, and then 1 is the second one, and 2 is the third one, and so on and so on. So we need to make sure that when we trigger this the script, we need to put multiple arguments behind that, and that's why I put the quotes in there. But we need to make sure that the first quotes, that we put the first argument in there, and that's going to be result, and the second one is going to be name. So we need to put name in the second one and result in the first one. So let's move to the input forms and just do that. So first we want to put the result in there. So I'm going to stand between the two quotes, and I'm going to click here to insert variable icon. And we're going to look for result in here and click OK. And the same thing we're going to do for the input name and add that as well. So on the WinAutomation side, we're totally done now, but we still don't have our web request ready, because we're going to use the invoke web request commandlet in PowerShell. So these parameters that we have here, the params variable, we need to send that to Power Automate, of course. And with all those things here, we're not gonna be able to send it back to Power Automate because we don't have a URI, for instance. The rest of the stuff is already totally done. So we only need to add the URI here. So let's move to the flow. And here we are in Power Automate. We have the flow here, manually trigger a flow, and we have to run a UI flow for desktop, and that's the one we used the last time when we were talking about the inputs and the new action that you have for WinAutomation. We are running the UI flow in attended mode, and we're gonna put a username in there. But that's nothing that we already know. So we really want to talk about the outputs here. So let's go to the second flow that I have, and that flow is currently totally empty. So let's fill in the trigger. We're going to look for request because that's the trigger we're going to use. So let's select request and select when an HTTP request is received. Then we have our JSON schema here, and in this case I'm going to use the sample payload to generate schema. So let's add some brackets in here and add the brackets in here, some JSON, and I'm gonna use result in here, and the other one was name. They are both strings. So let's select done now. And now you can see that we already have a JSON schema in here. And the next step for us is going to be a compose action, because I first want to show you how easy it is to get it back here. So let's select the name in here, and then I'm going to select the result in here. And now let's just save this flow. We need to open the when an HTTP request is received trigger again, because we need the URL from here. You can just click copy URL in here, and then we can enter that into the URI part of the invoke web request. So when you put your flow URL in here, it will make sure that you can trigger or invoke the web request from this commandlet. Let's save this one and move back to flow, Make sure this is saved as well. We already did that because otherwise we won't have the HTTP URL, of course. And let's just test this out and select outperform the trigger action and select test. Now we have to select run flow. And now if all goes well, we have to wait for a little while and then WinAutomation will trigger. There we are. It's already launching Excel, it's launching Chrome, it's entering all the data, it's grabbing the result from the screen as well. And we're back in Visual Studio Code now. So let's move back to to Power Automate to see if all went well. And we see that the whole run automation flow went great. But if we go to the WinAutomation response one, we can see as well that the whole flow has run successfully. So we got some info here, and you can see that we have a result and we have the name in here. So all went well. And it also went into the compose action, of course. So there we are. Now, of course, the compose action is a little bit simple. So when I edit this and I'm deleting this action, I of course want to make something a little bit more useful, and I want to kind of build a list of results that we got from the process that I just triggered. So let's create an item, go to the website that we need, and that's gonna be the root, and I'm gonna select the input forms results. Then we have the title, and I'm gonna use the name output or input here, and I'm gonna use the result one in here. And let's save this one. I already have the list in here. So let's move back to the run history from the WinAutomation one. Let's edit this one and trigger it once more and see if all goes well. Here we are. It's already starting to run. It's launching Chrome and it closed down Chrome and it's already completed. So let's move back to our list and refresh. Here we are, and you can see now that the result is in here as well. And this is actually a nice way to show all the results. So when I would trigger this flow again, you can actually see the differences between all those different runs that we did, and how fast it was, how fast it all went. This one is a little bit slower than the other one. So if we go back to the list here, you can see that the latest one was 1746 milliseconds, and that way you can keep track of all the tests that you do. So this is a really nice way to also put data back into certain systems. And you can do this for, of course, the input forms challenge, but you can do this for all kinds of things with websites, also with applications. You can get data from there and you can put it back into your systems if you want that. And that's a really powerful thing, I believe. And with that, I want to end this video. I hope you liked it. And if you have some requests for another video or another thing you want to know more about, please let me know in the comments. And of course, like and subscribe. And I hope to see you at the next video. Bye bye.